Hello everyone. Today we're going to try something a little bit different again, and I'm going to show you how to make a quick ren'py script that will automatically sort through all of your images for your visual novels and put them in the correct folder in order to keep things organized. So that's one thing I've been meaning to do is more videos on project organization, which is something that I struggled with a whole lot when I was getting started. Like, it's really easy to make a simple game and put all of your files in one place, and that generally works okay for a little while, but as your game grows and grows and grows, you have to split things into different files. You have to sort your images more effectively and put them in certain directories and things like that, which can get a little bit painful. And if you don't do that right from the very beginning, it can be very difficult to kind of go back and try to fix that stuff later on. But again, I'm going to show you how to write a quick Python script that will automatically sort through all of your images, so you can go through hundreds and hundreds of images at one time in just a matter of seconds and automatically put them in the correct directories. So if this is your first time here, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and we'll go ahead and jump right into this Python script. So right now I've got a couple of things open. I've got first of all, my images folder that I've been using for my YouTube tutorials, which we aren't going to do much with right now. I also have my Python interactive interpreter opened. So if you need a refresher on Python, be sure to go check out my earlier Python videos, because we're going to be working exclusively in pure Python for this video, not any ren'py code, but we're going to write an actual Python program. So right now I've got idle open, and just to kind of illustrate a couple of concepts that we're going to be using, the first one is imports. And one of the cool things about Python is that it's what they call a batteries included programming language, meaning that if you want to do some kind of an action with it, chances are it's already been done. It comes with a huge standard library, and the standard library is accessed via imports. If they had included all of this stuff in the core language by default, it would really bog it down and slow it down with a bunch of stuff that you're not going to need a whole lot. For instance, if you ever need random numbers, you have to import the random module in order to use that in your program. Now, these things are included. All you have to do is put an import statement in the beginning. And we're going to import a module called the OS module, which stands for operating system, which gives us, basically access to the operating system, where we can manipulate files, move things around, add, delete files, create and delete directories, and things like that. So all you have to do, actually, so I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. That should be a little bit easier to see. All right, so all we're going to do is I'm just going to say import OS. Now we've imported the OS module, so we have access to everything that can do. One of the most important things we're going to use is the get cwd command, and basically that is a function that gets the current working directory, the full file path of the directory where your file resides. And the way that we do that is we're just going to say OS, because we're calling the OS module, dot, telling us that we're going to call a function of that module. So os.get cwd, and since that's a function, we have to end it with parentheses for a function call. And then if I hit enter, it will give me the full current working directory. So right now we're in C drive, users, my name, app data, local programs, Python, Python 3.9, etc. So one of the cool things about this is you can actually store that in a variable. So if I wanted to create a variable called source directory, I could say src_dir equals, and then os.getcwd. And now every time I call that source directory, then it will pull up the current working directory for whatever we're in. So let's say that we wanted to get a list of files inside that directory. We could do that by using os.listdir, list directory. And this one is going to require an argument. So you have to actually put it the directory that you want to get the files from. And since we already have this, handy variable up here, I'm just going to type in source dir, src_dir. And now it'll pull up a list. And when I say list, I mean the actual data structure, a Python list of files that are in that directory. And we can manipulate that or print it pretty much how we would any other type of list. So for instance, I could say for file in, and actually let me go ahead and create a variable for this as well. I'm going to say files equals os.listdir. There we go. So now I've got that list stored in a files variable, and I could say for file in files, print file. And there, then it'll give me a nicely formatted list of all of the files that are inside that directory. There we go. And again, like I said, you can use any functions you would normally use with a list, with that list that it just gave us. So again, those are just a couple of the ways that we're going to be using the OS module. I'll get into the other ones as we start getting into the code. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and do that. Let me close that out, and I'm going to bring up VS Code, and I've already got a... Oh, where did it go? There we go. There it is. All right. So I've already got a file created called sort_images.py. This has to have the .py file extension that lets the operating system know that this is a Python file. And I've got this created right inside of my images folder. So this is very important. This, for the way we're going to write this file has to exist inside the same folder as all of the images that you want to sort. Very, very, very important. So the first thing that we're going to do at the top is we're going to do a couple of imports. We're going to import OS, as I said before, and then we're also going to import shutil, which shuttle or shutil, I don't know exactly what that is, but that's something that's going to let us manipulate files, move things around, and stuff like that. So that's going to be really handy later on, as you will see. So basically, the way this program is going to work is that we're going to look for a directory specifically for images, or for character images, and one for backgrounds. If it doesn't find those directories, those folders, then we're going to create them. And then we're going to go through all of our images one at a time, and we're going to put the background images in the background folder and the character images in the character folder. So one more thing that's very important before we get deep into the code is that I have a naming convention for all of my files, for all my image files rather, and it isn't necessary you follow the same convention that I do, but you do need some kind of convention. It's going to make sorting these a lot easier. So the way that I do it is I separate all of the words by underscores, and all of my backgrounds start with BG, and all of my character images start with CH. So basically all of my backgrounds start with BG underscore, and my characters with CH underscore. And that's going to be, as I said, very, very important in a moment. So we need to create a couple of variables. So we're going to create our source directory, just like we did before a moment ago. That's going to be os.getCurrentWorkingDirectory. That's all we need to do for that. And then we're going to get a list of our files, also just like we did before. And I'm going to call this source files equals, and that's os.listDirectory, and then source directory. So remember, we have to have that argument in there letting us know the directory of the files that we want to grab. So after that, I'm going to create two more variables, one for the name of the character folder and one for the name of the background folder. So the character folder is going to be ch directory, and this is going to be inside the source directory. So I'm going to say source directory plus, or actually, instead of using string concatenation, I'm going to do this with an f string. We use one of those nifty Python 3 features. So we're going to say source directory, and then a double backslash, followed by characters. All right. So what this is telling us is that we're going to put this in the source directory. We have to put a double backslash. That's an escape character. If you need a refresher on strings and kind of how backslashes and escape characters work, I believe I did that in one of my earlier videos. If I did, I'll link to that on the screen or in the description below. But basically, since I'm in Windows, everything is separated by a backslash. So you have to put two backslashes, and basically that looks like one backslash to the file system. And then characters is the name of our folder. And I'm going to do the same thing with background directory. And we're also going to put that in the source directory, backslash, and we're going to call this backgrounds. And that's all we have to do. So real quick, I'll just show you what this would look like. I'm just going to say print character directory, and print background directory. And let me run that. There we go. And so you can see it just looks like a regular file path to our what is going to be our folder. So again, this isn't actually a folder. This is just a string that's going to let us know where that folder is going to be located. And we're going to create that in just a moment. All right, let me get rid of those print statements. There we go. And we're going to create 3 functions. The first function is going to be called create folders. So we're going to use that to check to see if these folders exist. If they do exist, we will do nothing. If they don't exist, we will create them. The other thing we're going to do is create a function for moving files. I'm just going to pass that right now. And then we're going to create our main function, which is going to actually run the program. And there's one more statement that we need, or we should have at the end of all of our Python scripts, which is this. If name is equal to main, and I'm beginning and ending each of these with double underscores, then main. And if you've never seen this before, basically every single Python script has a double underscore name, double underscore variable. If you are running this script from this script itself, then that name will be main. And in which case, we're going to run the main function. So that'll make a little bit more sense in a moment, I think, once we get all the functions filled out. The reason that we do that is because we might call this as a module, the same way that we're importing OS and importing shutil right now. We might want to import different functions from this file later on. And if we do that, it's going to keep it from running that main function, so we can just use the functions that we want specifically. All right, so let's go ahead and create our folders real quick. So the first thing we're going to do, as I said, is see if these folders exist. And actually, we're going to check to see if they don't exist. So I'm going to say, actually, let's do this. So let's say if os.path.isDir. So basically, this is saying that if this path is a directory, so if this variable right here, if that path does exist, then we're going to run this code right here. But we don't want to see if it does exist. We want to see if it doesn't exist. So I'm going to say if not os.path.isDir, then we're going to run this code. And this is where we're going to make our directory. os.makedir for make directory. Simple as that. So now it's going to check if that doesn't exist, then we're going to create it. And we'll go ahead and give ourselves a little print statement. Character directory created. Just to let us know that that worked okay. Same thing for this other one. If not, os.path.isDir background directory. Then we're going to make that one, and then print background directory created. And simple as that. That one is pretty easy. Next, we're going to get to the part where we're actually going to move the files around. So we're going to loop through these using a for loop. And again, I think I said this before, but if you're lost by any of this, just go check out my earlier Python tutorials. I've got a whole playlist that breaks this stuff down step by step. This is also very handy to learn for ren'py. It'll make your give you some cool ideas for things that you can do inside the ren'py engine as well. So I'm going to say for file in source files. So we're going to loop through all of these files. And we're going to say if that file name contains ch underscore. So if ch underscore is in file, which is just the file name, then we're going to print moving file to character directory. And then we're actually going to move the file. And here's where we're going to use the sh shuttle import. We're going to say shuttle.move. And this is going to look for 2 arguments. It's going to look for the source file and then the destination file. Notice not the directory, but we have to put in the entire file path. So the way that we get that is we're going to say, again, I've got to put my curly brackets because I'm using an F string. So we're going to say source directory. We're going to do our double backslash and then file. Oops, that also has to be in curlies. And all that's going to be enclosed in a string. And then it's going to look for our destination file, which since we're doing the characters, that's going to be character directory double backslash files. Oops, sorry, just file. There we go. And then same thing for the backgrounds. If bg underscore is in the file name, we're going to print moving file to bg background directory. And then we're actually going to do the moving. So again, we're going to start in our source directory, double backslash file, and we're going to move that to, oop, I just realized a mistake I made. I'll go back and fix that in a moment. Background directory, double slash file. And I forgot to put my F in front of this to make it an F string. If you don't do that, it won't know how to parse these curly braces. So that has to be there. And that is the guts of the program. That's pretty much everything that makes it work. Hey everybody, this is Adam from the future. I was just editing this video and realized that there is a way of doing something in this tutorial that makes a whole lot more sense, and I'm going to show you that right now. So in here, I used the double backslashes in order to represent a single backslash to join all of my files together. And anybody who is using a Mac or Linux system is probably screaming at the screen as I'm doing that, because this only works for Windows. Not only that, there was a way in Python that is platform agnostic that works for everything. And I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. I'm just going to make a couple of brief changes. Everything else in the video is going to do exactly the same. And when you're done, this program will work exactly the same way, but should work no matter what operating system you're using, whether you're using Windows or a Unix-based system like Linux or Mac OS. The way that we do that is through another function of the OS module called os.path.join. And basically this takes file paths and joins them together with a separator. And on Windows, that separator is a backslash, but on Unix-based operating systems, it is a /. So if you try to do what I did on Unix or Mac, or Linux or Mac, it will not work. However, by doing this, it'll work on any system. So I'm going to show you real quick. So I'm going to, I'm going to comment both of these out. And we're going to say, I'm just going to redeclare these variables. Character directory equals, and we're going to say os.path.join, and it's going to expect an arbitrary number of arguments, and the arguments that you put in, it's automatically going to join them into a file name. And I will actually show you real quick how that works. I was messing around with that earlier in idle. So if I go print os.path.join source directory and then just put in the string characters, then you can see, just like up there, it just gives me that file name and then just puts characters at the end, and it automatically did that with the correct backslash. Again, if I were using Linux or Mac, it would do that with a /, whatever's correct for your operating system. So we are going to join together source directory and the string characters. Very important that that is a string. Same thing for the background directory, os.path.join. But now we're going to do source directory and background. Oops, let's spell that correctly. And we're also going to have to update that down here when we're doing the shuttle function. So it's going to be shutil.move. And then inside of that, we're going to put os.path.join. So our first argument is going to be the source. That's going to be source directory file. And then our second argument is going to be the destination file. And that'll be character directory and file. There we go. And then same thing for this one. os.path.join, source directory, and file. And again, it'll just join those two variables together. There we go. I know I ran through that kind of quickly. I hope that makes sense. It's pretty easy to grasp. Again, all it does is it just takes those arguments and joins them together with the correct directory separator for your operating system. That's very important. So if you're ever making something that you want to be platform agnostic, which hopefully that's everything, always use os.path.join. With that, we'll get back to the rest of the video. Program. That's pretty much everything that makes it work. So now all we have to do is tell our main script what to do, and it's going to create folders, and then it's going to move files. That's it. So when we run this program, what's going to happen is from top to bottom, it's going to do our imports, it's going to set all of our variables, then it's going to define the functions, it's going to define create folders, move files, and main, but it's not going to do anything with those yet. When we get down here, it's going to check to see if our namespace is the same as the string main, which it will be because we're going to run it from this module. And at that point, it's going to run our main function, which is going to create folders and then move files. And that's it. Pretty simple script. What's that? 33 lines. I've got a little bit of white space in there. We could probably clean that up a little bit, but a really short script that could save you a huge headache later on down the line, especially if you let your your file management get out of hand. And of course, you can adapt this to however you want. If you have like different types of files besides just characters and background, I think I've given you everything that you need to know in order to adapt this for your own purposes. So let's do this. Let's give this a try real quick. I'm going to show you how to run this. So we could run it from inside of Visual Studio Code, but I'm going to run that from the command line instead. So there's actually a handy shortcut to get to the command line from this folder. If you just delete everything up there in your address bar and just type in cmd, it'll pull up the command prompt, and I am now inside this folder, so I can do all of my DOS or command prompt commands. So there, if I type in dir, it'll give me a list of every file in that directory. And the one that we're looking for is sortimages.py. The way that we run that is to type in Python and then the name of the script, sortimages.py, and then hit enter. And there it goes. Created our two folders and sorted everything correctly. So I missed a couple that I did not have following my naming convention, but everything else worked just fine. Yeah, there we go. So I hope you got something out of this. If you did, if you learned something out of this today, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you never miss one of my new videos. Leave me a comment if you like this video and if you would like to see more of these Python utility scripts, and if there's anything in particular that you would like to see from this kind of content, just like different Python scripts to make your life a little bit easier. I'm going to do some more. I'm probably going to expand on this sorting program a little bit later. But until then, we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.